Welcome all of you once again. In this tutorial of SQL series, I will be talking about SQL constraints. So rules in SQL are specified using the constraints and it is for the data in a table. Thus, if any action is done on a data and it doesn't meet the required constraint that is given for that particular column, the action will be aborted by the constraint, giving a particular error message. Now these constraints in SQL can be specified in two ways, that is at the time of table creation using the create statement, or at the, even if the table is created, it can be altered using the alter command, right? The various SQL constraints are not null, new, unique, primary key, check and default. The not null constraint in an SQL ensures that a column cannot be an empty value. That means column need to have some value with it. Unique constraint, it ensures that each row for a column must be unique. No duplicate values are allowed. Then next constraint which we have is a primary key. It ensures that a column of a table, it must be able to uniquely identify a particular record in a table that makes the identification easy and quick. So I can say that primary key constraint is a combination of not null and a unique. That means a column cannot be empty, plus it should be able to identify a record uniquely from a table. Next is a check. It ensures that the value in a column, it meets the specific conditions. If we want to restrict that yes, my name should always start with a particular letter, or I can say that age should be for a age column, if I want to specify that age should be particular thing, so I can restrict that particular thing using the check constraint. Next we have is a default constraint. It specifies the default value for a particular column. Even it can be made use if we are missing out giving a value to a particular record at a time of insertion. The not null constraint. Suppose we have a student table and I can see that I have not entered any value and not given any constraint. Now if we want to add a constraint to this table such that the record value for the S number should not be an empty one, I am going to have S number and the constant will be specified in this way, that is S number 5 not null. If I want to have for the two columns, each of the individual columns can be specified with a not null constraint. Thus, a table can have multiple columns having a not null value. That depends upon the user. Unique constraint. The unique constraint for a particular table can be given in this way. You have given a not null to the column S number, that means that cannot be empty. Again for the same S name you have given that it cannot be an empty value. So if we are going to have it empty, it is going to prompt me an error. And to have a unique for each of the numbers which you am giving for the student number, I have to write it as unique in the bracket S number, that is my column name for which I want the unique constraint to be applied. This was about the time of creation, but if my table has been already created, I can alter by adding a constant to my existing table. That will be done using the alter statement. Alter table, my table name is student. Add constraint, and the constant I want to add to the table is unique. If I have to make two columns for a table unique, I would write the column name separated with comma. Primary key constraint. The column can be given a primary key constraint by giving the primary key with the column at the time of creation, or else there is a mistake at this particular point, this will not come, or else I can specify the primary key at the end of the table. And the particular column for which I wanted the primary key to be generated, I have to write it in a empty brackets. Check constraint. To check that a particular column, it meets a particular criteria, we have a check constraint in SQL. So if I am writing it as check S number greater than 0, that means none of my student ID number can be 0. It should be any value, but it should be other than 0. This was at the time of creation, but if I have to give it for the next table that is already created, so that is done using an alter statement. The alter statement will be as follows: alter table name, that is student, and add a check constraint, that is add check, for the column that is S number, and the value to be checked is S number greater than 0. The last constraint which we have is a default constraint to give if we miss out entering a value for a particular column, and if we have specified a default constraint, the values will be automatically inserted and the record would be updated. So the default constraint would be specified at the time of creation in this way. If I have to give a default constraint to the column that is age, I would write it as default, and the value I want to give as a default for a age column is 12. So if I miss out writing a age value, it will be automatically fetched with it will be automatically embedded with the value that is 12. And using that with the alter statement, it would be alter table name, that is student, alter my age column and set the default value to 12. Right? So this was all about the SQL constraints. Thank you.